Hello there, and welcome again to another edition of the Husker Online Show, a very special edition because it's our 500th show of the Husker. Think about that, guys.
Wow,
500 straight weeks of the Husker Online Show. And as you know, we started out strictly podcast only. Over the last couple of years, we've evolved to the YouTube, and it's grown our reach and our numbers even that much more. So we appreciate all of our listeners that have helped make this the most viewed and watched Husker podcasts on the internet. And we're going to be hopefully around from their 500 shows. We would show you footage, guys, from our first shows, but those were in black and white. It was so long ago, I think.
Sean. I wasn't in black and white.
No.
Pretty sure I was on about 490 of those, but you're all 500.
Yeah, well, there was a short period where the Husker Online brand was not allowed to publish on the internet for 3 months. But we could still do shows.
I remember that.
And you guys worked for a Nebraska Coming Soon website.
Oh, yeah. Nebraska coming soon.
And did that,
Never
are you
forget.
saying that counted or not? I'm sorry.
And so I continue to do Husker Online shows alone.
Yeah, we did not do a Husker
To keep the streak alive.
because we were not Husker Online.
I broadcasted from Ireland. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to let this destroy what we have here. I'm going to keep doing shows.
Yeah, did it.
And I did shows in Ireland. I did shows all. I mean, it was great. We made it work. So here we are. Thank you very much for sticking with us to allow us this opportunity to be here for 500 shows, and hopefully for 5. We started this show, by the way, in the basement of my house.
Mm-hmm.
You and Rob, pretty much,
And Dan Hoppin
Dan
and Nate Klaus. That was our original group, and we had little bar tables in my basement.
Okay.
And my brother-in-law refinished these bar tables, and we had microphones and things on the tables. And that's how we began the show. And within 1 week of doing this show, John Gaskins was at 93.7 The Ticket. Our first episode aired. The Ticket has aired 499 of our shows in Lincoln.
Wow. Interesting.
So appreciative of their support of our show. We're obviously on KFAB, ESPN Radio on Kearney and Hastings and Grand Island, and then we're on in Fremont as well.
I got to start taking this more seriously.
Says everybody else involved in your life on everything you do.
All right, Sean.
Says the guy that doesn't wear a helmet when he rides his motorcycle.
I should. We don't need to bring that one up.
The guy that hasn't been to the dentist since he's 10.
Yeah. It's all getting aired today.
Just
We're
put it out.
celebrating-
Put it all out there. What
We're
else can we get
celebrating 500.
500 shows.
Should we have some special cake or something?
Yeah, at least get some sort of
I'm kidding, Sean.
pastry.
Yeah, I wouldn't even eat it because I got teeth problems.
Sipple's on a middle ages dental plan here.
Once a quarter century dental checkup.
All right, man. Sean,
okay, but
Sean, get back on track.
I'm laughing too hard here, but thank you for 500 shows. All right, I want to get into the opening headline discussion here because we've seen the new staff for Nebraska kind of start to take form. Obviously, John Butler was announced officially as the new defensive backs coach. But, a big hire over the weekend was made by Matt Rule. Jamar Mosey was hired as a senior defensive assistant coach or senior assistant coach on the staff.
Ooh, you let it loose there, Sean.
He was a defensive assistant at Central Florida.
Okay.
But senior assistant coach is his title for now. But I think this is kind of the makings of what's to come with the new coaching rule. You can have unlimited coaches on the field, coaching players, instructing players. Before, you could just have 10 coaches and graduate assistants. This is going to allow teams like Nebraska to bring in more people and put them on the road. So any one of those, say, 20-plus coaches now could recruit on the road. I would expect Jamar Mosey will be on the road, and he will be a heavy presence now in Kansas City for Matt Rule.
Yeah, I mean, I regard this. I got to be a little careful because the information's a little limited right now, but it's like a Big Ten flex to me. It's a Big Ten school flexing in that there are other conferences other than the Big Ten and SEC that can do this, that would love to do it, but they can't pay for them. Like Nebraska can. Nebraska can come in and say, we'll pay you this, whereas West Virginia might not be able to do that. He's going to Nebraska. And I think that'll happen a lot. I think that's where that huge money discrepancy that separates the SEC and the Big Ten from the rest of the pack, this is one way it manifests itself.
Mm-hmm. You're already starting to see an impact like this on the recruiting trail, where
Really?
guys are tweeting out offers with Mosey's handle attached to it. I mean, it's a direct ripple effect
Wow.
of this. And so,
Already.
yeah, I mean, that impact alone is going to be significant, let alone all the stuff that potentially they'll be allowed to do on the field once the season gets going.
And you just wonder, like, we're going to find out more before Big Ten Media Days what this staff is going to look like as far as the new assignments, the new duties, new hires. Like, I do believe there's going to be another defensive backs name probably hired.
Do you think Mosey's a defensive backs coach?
I don't know that for sure. I don't want to say.
Okay.
It wouldn't surprise me, though, if he is. But I think you're going to see another name hired here in the coming days. So you have just so much more flexibility. But I think now the approach in recruiting, because remember, in December, you would go on the road and you would do these in-home visits and recruiting. That's gone. You can't do that anymore. December is a quiet period now. You can only host recruits on campus in December. No more coaches out on the road. So when are coaches going to go on the road now? In the season. So that's where the Jamar Moseys and, maybe you put a Keith Williams on your staff or other coaches like that on the road on Friday nights more, because you're going to have to get in front of prospects and see prospects now and find times to do it, because the December period is no longer going to be what it is. And then you won't be back out on the road again now till January.
Right. So you can see scenarios where a Jamar Mosey or a Keith Williams goes out on the road and doesn't even attend the Saturday game.
Or they fly in and make it right in time.
Yeah.
I mean, private aircraft too, another flex. They can, you could have Keith Williams go to St. Louis, Jamar Mosey go to Kansas City, the same plane, drop them off, pick them up, fly them back.
But I guarantee you there'll be instances where a coach doesn't make it back for the game. They don't have to.
Right.
There's really no reason. I mean, I don't want to say no reason, but it's not integral that all of them have to be there on the sideline. If there's 20 of them, not all of them need to be there.
Mm-hmm. So, but with the Mosey thing, recruiting, obviously the first thing everybody saw was his son, Isaiah Mosey, 4-star Oregon commit. Do you think that this changes anything with that situation?
Yes, I do.
It sure seems like.
I think it's a one way to get him. Isaiah Mosey's an interesting player, Rob. I did film him up. The
film doctor over here.
Doctor. He's an interesting player because he does play a lot of running back. So obviously he's really good after the catch. I mean, really good after the catch. And they run him a lot of short routes like slip screens and just get the ball to him on the perimeter and make two guys miss and go. He's not. They list him at 6 foot. He's probably. If he's 6 foot, he's right at it. He's not that big. Good though. I mean, he's a really good player.
Took his official visit to Lincoln already. He's been to Lincoln multiple times.
Yeah.
So
I think this is a way to get him. No, but I don't want to make it sound like they just hired his dad to get him. I don't think it's that, but it's a convenient byproduct.
Well, and Rule has done this before, where he's taken relatively prominent high school coaches and added them to his staff.
He's done it all three places.
Yeah, everywhere he's been.
Baylor, Temple, now Nebraska. I mean, Phil Simpson was a high school coach in Homestead in Florida, in Miami. Bob Wager, and now Mosey. I mean, those are 3 really successful high school football coaches.
Yep. I think you have to be somewhat careful in that. Like if you hired certain Omaha coaches in the metro and then sent them to recruit at certain schools, might not go over that well.
Mm-hmm. I know where you're going with this one.
Do you see what I'm saying? I mean, those guys are hotly competitive. So you gotta, and I'm sure that Matt Rule understands the nuance, and you get the right guy in that scenario. But you see what I'm saying? There's some schools in some markets where a coach would go to another school and just not be all that welcome.
See, that's why I always thought like Dan Jackson, if there was ever going to be a guy to like handle and just be the in-state poobah, he was the perfect guy because he coached at Burke, but he recruited at South Dakota State and Vanderbilt and Northern Illinois so heavily with Nebraska kids. And he is well respected by all the coaches. So that to me would have been like the only in-state guy. And he's at Idaho now as the defensive coordinator.
Okay.
But he would make a lot of sense if Nebraska ever was like, you know what, we're going to flex our Big Ten checkbook, and Dan Jackson's going to be our guy for ends. And it should have happened multiple. Frost should have hired Dan Jackson in that role, and Riley should have hired him. To me, I have no idea why the guy never got the opportunity, because he is the most absolute perfect guy to work at Nebraska in that role as the in-state kind of lead recruiter.
So people are going to wonder how many is he adding? How many? I'm just calling them assistant coaches. I never know exactly how to label these new coaches. I do think Keith Williams will be part of it. Is that what you're suggesting?
I would not be surprised if Keith Williams is on the road as the St. Louis guy. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And by the way, I didn't know this. Like some of his former teammates, like Chris Brooks is a trainer and a coach down in St. Louis. Mike McNeil is a coach down in St. Louis.
Is he
now.
really?
Yeah. At SLU, I believe.
Is that right? Like
St.
a head
Louis
coach?
Assistant. Helps out.
Yeah. Keith Williams, you could see him coaching the O-line. It wouldn't have to be the O-line, though. He could coach tight
Like
ends.
Jeremy Macklin's a coach now in St. Louis.
Wow.
And
really
Keith's friends with Jim. So I think there's some natural connections that Keith would have down there where, yeah, you start putting him down there legally now within these new rules. It's a great deal.
Yeah. So how many are we expecting?
I don't know. I mean,
like
I think
10 additions.
I think 10's a safe bet, right?
And I think you're paying them probably in the 150,000 to 200,000 range.
Not new additions, new titles. I think like you're going to see Adam to Michael have a different role, different title. Like you're going to see things like that happen. People that are already here and you retitle them.
You'll see that combined with new faces.
With
like
3 or
Moses.
4. Well, we already met the guy in Texas, the GA they added on the defensive line.
So there's 2 new faces. His name escapes me, but he's D-line. He's helping with the D-line. He's now, Sean, though, this is where people get confused because didn't they term him a GA?
For now.
Oh, okay.
That was before the rules finalized.
Okay.
But yeah, he'll be able to be on the field. That's the key.
Okay, got it.
All right. When we come back, we're going to. I was hoping you'd fill a little time there so I could look that name up.
Oh,
but
Rob, you got anything?
You decided to abruptly stop on me.
50th anniversary. Any plans?
50th anniversary.
Any plans with the wife tonight?
Yeah, we're gonna go to the dentist. That's what we're gonna do.
That's what I'm doing Wednesday.
Ira Savage Lewis.
There you go.
That's the guy.
Right.
All you needed to do was give me 10 more seconds, Steve Sipple.
I cut it down.
You decided to just abruptly shut down the machine. That's all right.
I didn't have your back.
I'm like tap dance a little bit.
If I don't have your
Bill
back,
a little time.
I didn't know I was supposed to have your back in that instance. I didn't know you're looking up that guy.
Yeah, we didn't get the helicopter land.
Yeah.
Ira Savage Lewis. So
okay,
that's one of the other hires, and he's a former NFL player playing the league.
He's a big man. I mean, if you would look at him, you'd say, yeah, he probably played D-line, maybe offensive line, but probably D-line.
All right, when we come back, our top 40 Husker lists are now done. We're going to pick apart Steve Sipple's list.
Wow, this has been a rough show for me.
My list, Robin's list. We'll pick apart all our lists next. Give our thoughts on that heading into the start of the season. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. And we're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Robin Washett, Steve Sipple, celebrating the 500 show. Before we get into some top 40 Husker discussion, the segment of the Husker Online Show brought to you by Mando. And if you're not familiar with Mando, premium products, deodorants, shampoos, face washes, body wash, you name it, they've got you covered in that. And this is the time of year you're going to need. I mean, it was 114-degree heat index, guys, yesterday. You needed some Mando.
Yeah, it's a little cooler today.
I'm glad I wasn't around you, Steve Sipple, yesterday.
Why would you say that? I don't typically smell.
You know, but we've got a great deal. If you've not tried Mando, for our Husker Online listeners here, we're going to get you the starter pack. Comes with deodorant stick, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, like mini body wash, our deodorant wipes, and free shipping. Luckily, we also have a discount code for you as well on that. New customers will get $5 off the starter pack with our code here. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack. You got to use the code Husker at shopmando.com. That's shopmando.com, promo code Husker. Thanks again to Mando for sponsoring us here on the Husker Online Show. Okay, top 40 Husker lists. And we've done this now for a number of years where we've gone through like our top 40 list of players. And, you know, our number 1 player overall was Dylan Raiola. 4 of us had Raiola in 1. Sipple had him 2.
Did I have him 2?
Yeah. And your number 1 vote, Sipple, was Isaac Gifford.
Mm-hmm.
And to kind of put it in comparison, I had Gifford 8. Robin had him 5. Abby had him 11. Oof. So you were the outlier. Stipple was the only person that had his top 5 actually appear in the top 5, but a lot of it had to do with his Isaac Gifford #1 vote bumped Isaac Gifford into the number 5 spot.
You skewed the voting.
Interesting.
We've removed some people from these votes over the years because they skewed the voting. And
yeah, I was removed at the Journal Star. Yeah, they wouldn't often let me do stuff like that because of just sort of the laziness I would exhibit. Not laziness or lack of interest, because it's hard to rank. I mean, it's really hard to rank players. But I felt good about Gifford #1 because he had 86 tackles and led the team in tackles by 31. And he's, I mean, I just kind of go with proven. I like proven. I did put Raiola #2, though. I think I felt a lot of pressure to do so.
More often than not, quarterback is going to be #1 because
Right.
there's no single position that dictates a team's success more than quarterback. So inherently, based off the criteria of this list, quarterback naturally fits the #1 spot.
Jeff Sims, I think, was one last year.
He was one last year, and look, he was bad. And look what happened.
Stipple's like, look at that, he's waving his beard.
So, okay, I think I can see the Gifford. I mean, I had him 5. I had him in my top 5.
Yeah,
and so a lot of that had to do with just the leadership component and his proven production last year. Being the leading tackler speaks for itself, but just the way that he's kind of become the face of that secondary. I mean, he's a media day selection. When Cooper, that news broke, who was the first player to publicly tweet it out and posted that thing about weathering tough times or whatever it was. Like, that to me kind of speaks volumes about his role off the field being just important as it is, maybe even more so than it is on the field, just because of the leadership and the way that guys look to him, especially during tough times.
Yeah, I had Hutmacher #2.
Okay.
And he finished #2. I had Jamal Banks at 4, and he was our 3rd. You had Banks at 3. Robin had him at 8. Abby at 2. I'm curious, Robin, on Banks, why you were, a guy that could be 1,000-yard receiver this year. What kind of led you to
explain yourself,
8?
Rob?
Not a leading question by any means by me, Your Honor.
Well, I mean, I basically led more with defensive guys. I had Raiola 1, then Nash 2. Then I had Ben. I was the highest on Ben Scott. I had him 3rd overall. But then, I just had him kind of right in that mix of Fedoni, Gifford, Banks, and a lot of it's just because he just hasn't done it here yet. I mean, I certainly think that he's capable of being their #1 guy, one of the better receivers Nebraska's had in a few years here, but I leaned more towards guys that I'd seen do it at Nebraska.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. It's very subjective in nature. These things are very subjective.
It is. And you could easily talk me into putting him higher.
I will say, though, our top 11, so there were only 11 players that received a top 10 vote.
Oh, is that right?
So we were pretty together on the top 11. Dylan Raiola.
That surprises
Nash.
me.
Well, yeah, because you're always going to get one outlier. Like Robin had John Bullock at 12, and he finished he's 19th on the list. I had Bullock at 32. So like
that's a big discrepancy.
Big discrepancy on John Bullock.
Think about that. That's a 20-spot discrepancy. Player.
I had Ramir Johnson at 16. I probably had him a little high.
Would you have Bullock Sip? Do you remember?
I don't remember. Higher than Sean.
Can't remember where he ended up. But my reasoning for having him as high as he is because I think he's the most proven commodity at the most questionable position on the defense right now, where his return was pretty critical and I don't think got talked about enough. And yeah, he did it for 1 year, but now he's got a whole year of experience playing linebacker, whereas a year ago this time he was just transitioning from defensive back into linebacker. So now he gives you that experience, that leadership, and kind of the proven production that it's going to be pretty critical.
Yeah, I think he was a 51 tackle. I think.
And Sip, you had him at 14.
Yeah.
And the other real big outlier was Emmett Johnson. He could have probably been a little higher. He finished 14th. I had him at 13. Abby had him at 10. You had him at 16. Robin had Emmett Johnson at 26.
Wow.
Again, a lot of that running back room, I don't know what to know, but think about it. What if Gabe Irvin comes in and is just a dude? Like,
no, you're right. It could change in one.
The same thing
scrimmage.
with our cornerbacks too. Like outside of Tommy Hill, like we were all over the board on that one. Where Abby had Bly Hill 20, Sip didn't even have him rated. So I mean, like
Oversight.
well,
See, you're right. Now, you had Teddy Prohaska 21, and I had him at 11. Robin had him at 11. Abby had him at 9. Still finishes at 11 on the list. So that's where Robin.
Where did I have him?
21
Okay.
as the left tackle for a drop back quarterback. So, like,
Well, this is where you call into question. So we're basically just ranking not even the guys. We're just ranking positions.
value.
That's what
value.
You make it sound like that.
Value.
If a quarterback,
who's
if you play
behind Teddy
quarterback-
Prohaska?
Who?
right
Yeah.
now?
Are you like? Will the
I don't
team
know.
possibly Corcoran?
I don't know, but I don't. I mean, I'm not going to rate him just because he's the left tackle.
I rank him as value to the team.
Well,
And so our top 11 though was pretty. I mean, we had a pretty.
I mean, I think you got to watch that though. I mean, just because there's a starting middle linebacker, I mean, they don't really have a middle linebacker, but so he's automatically high. I don't know. I mean, is he any good? I mean, if you just fill a position, you automatically get a high ranking. I don't agree with that if that's the case. And I don't agree with the quarterback discussion that you guys make it sound like you automatically have to rank the quarterback one.
You don't have to. But
I mean,
again, it's
we
because-
rank Jeff Sims number one. Okay. I mean,
Yeah, and again,
say no more.
why?
I mean,
so
If you
think
look at the criteria of what this voting is about,
Rank
it says
the
the voting
positions.
criteria was to rank these players based on their importance to the team, overall talent, and future potential for the upcoming
so
season.
just rank the positions next time, basically.
Okay.
all right. I mean, so our top 11 though:
Quarterback
Raiola,
one and left tackle two.
Raiola, Hutmacher, Banks 1, 2, 3. Fedoni was 4. Gifford 5. Ben Scott, Jamari Butler, Ty Robinson, Tommy Hill, Bryce Benhart, Teddy Prohaska.
I felt funny ranking Raiola too, to be honest. You were ranking a guy who's never thrown a pass in a college game second. I mean, you have the benefit right now of that, of this nothing proven.
I have the benefit of hearing what coaches and other people have told me.
Well, we heard the same stuff about Sims. So, I mean, we had that benefit last year.
Yeah, but the throws that Raiola is making, Sims was not making those kind of throws. And I've seen some of the clips from the scrimmages.
You're never going to get me off the fact.
Was
that
Scotty
Sims-
Walden in your column here today talking about, would he have talked like about Jeff
I don't
Sims
know. I
at the
don't
level?
know. I can't argue your hypothetical.
I'm just saying,
I can't argue hypothetical.
is there a player on the roster that
Changes the
if
season.
he's good, Nebraska is automatically better. If he's bad, Nebraska is automatically worse. More than Dylan Raiola.
Well, I suppose not. But
That's what it was for me.
I mean, I can't argue against him too vehemently because I ranked him number 2.
Right.
And I can't argue him against him vehemently because he hasn't thrown a pass yet. So I don't know. If he throws 3 interceptions in the first game, are you going to come back and say, Sip, see, I guess you were right? No, you won't. I mean, it doesn't work like that. I get it. But that we'll see. It'll play itself out.
All right, when we come back, I'm going to shift gears, talk conference realignment and expansion. We'll stop beating up on you, Steve
We need
Sipple.
to shift
Been a
gears.
tough day.
We'll stop beating up on you. I want to talk conference realignment, particularly Florida State and Clemson, as they are in the news again. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. And we're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Wash. That's our 500 show here. Thank you so much for making 500 possible. Thank you for putting up with us for 500 shows. But as
That too.
we move on the show, this segment brought to you by Babbel. Have you ever wanted to learn a foreign language but don't have the time to go back to school, don't have the time to hire a private tutor? Well, Babbel is a perfect way to learn. Babbel has quick 10-minute lessons. They're handcrafted by over 200 language experts to help you start speaking in new languages as little as in 3 weeks. They're designed by real people for real conversations. Where was Babbel, by the way, in college? I needed Babbel.
You need an English one.
You know, I need, yeah. I came in speaking South Omaha Street.
Sorry, Sean. Joking. You're fine.
Hey, this is testy.
It's 500.
500.
Going in.
But Babbel, they've sold over 16 million subscriptions. 14 award-winning language courses are backed by a 20-day money-back guarantee. And for a limited time, for our Husker Online listeners, we're going to give you 60% off your Babbel subscription. Go to babbel.com/Husker. Once again, you're going to get 60% off if you just go to babbel.com/Husker. That's Babbel, BABBEL.com/Husker. Rules and restrictions may apply. Thanks again to Babbel for sponsoring us here on the Husker Online Show. Okay, I wanted to hit on this conference realignment because we're back in it full swing again. Florida State and Clemson, it's kind of reached the day of demarcation here for them. They have to make a decision on what direction things are going to go because they clearly want out of the ACC. They would love to get in the SEC or the Big Ten. According to Brett McMurphy and other reports, though, coming out of these conference media days, particularly the SEC, it sounds like the Noles are not wanted by either one of the SEC or the Big Ten right now. Your thoughts, Steve Sibley?
Well, they got to get out of the grant of rights deal with the ACC first, which is they're locked in right now, as of today, Rob, they are locked in. It's incredible to say this through 2036.
That's embarrassing. That's crazy.
It's kept them together. I'd say that somewhat facetiously, but yeah, they're locked in through 2036. The lawyers are having at it. There is some talk that the SEC and the Big Ten might resist Florida State in part because they've been a disruptive partner. And they have been a disruptive partner. I would describe Florida State's fan base as obsessed with getting out of the ACC. Now McMurphy's article suggests they might not have the landing spot that they desire. So I wonder how that changes. The other part of this is I read an article, a column by Blake Topmeyer of the Tennessean, who actually suggested that if the SEC were to expand, they might not want Florida State or Clemson. They might go North Carolina, Virginia. Now, I don't know. That's just
why are they so attractive?
North Carolina, Virginia, strong athletic departments in growing areas. Strong athletic departments in growing areas. So it's just a columnist
in academics.
Yeah, whereas Florida State and Clemson are in states where the SEC already occupies. So I don't know. There's different ways to look at it. But I don't think Florida State to the Big Ten is a slam dunk in any way.
And if the reason why the Big Ten is not interested in either is because they're not a part of the AAU, doesn't that make you a little nervous if you're Nebraska? Because you're essentially a Florida State or Clemson right now in the Big Ten.
Yeah, it does make you a little nervous.
That's where Dr. Jeffrey Gold and the new president of the University of Nebraska, Dr. Gold, they have to figure out this merging of the med school to the flagship campus here, Lincoln.
They can get back in.
But no one's ever done it, but no one's ever tried either. I mean, Nebraska
being booted out and then trying to get back in.
Yeah, and no one's ever done what Nebraska would do here, where they'd merge the funds together. And that's why they got kicked out, because their research dollars are not pooled together.
Yeah.
Main campus and
the med school.
Yeah, this seems like the most opportunistic time to do it. I mean, this for the future of your university, not just athletic department. I mean, if you want all that money, like, this is a pretty critical time. And what better time to do something like that? Like Sean says, it's never been done, but there's never been this much incentive to do it that it is right now.
So we'll see about Florida.
Florida State, Clemson.
I just still have a hard time thinking if the Big Ten could get these teams, why they wouldn't want them.
I think they would.
They probably want them at a discount, though.
What would the SEC sit back and let Florida State and Clemson go to the Big Ten without a fight? Would the SEC then jump into this? Sankey, yes. I mean, we should add this. Greg Sankey is the SEC commissioner. SEC media days are ongoing in Dallas, and he addressed SEC media days on day one and said, "We're happy at 16. We're happy today. We'll be happy tomorrow." Now, the question that the media was asking is, what about the next day?
The Big Ten did say similar things. Then all of a sudden, USC and UCLA were in the league.
Right. Sankey, that's exactly right. Now, Sankey 17 times said 16 is the number in his address. He said it 17 times. I don't know. I will tell you this. The SEC doesn't have to expand. They're fine. It's 16. they're much better than fine at 16.
especially with Texas and Oklahoma.
And what they have that's the envy of a lot of conferences, the Big Ten included probably, is contiguous states. They're the Southeast Conference, the Southeastern Conference.
Well, and
they're the Southeast. They're no other place. And there is strength in that. And Sankey will always tell you that.
and there's just in the SEC in general, there's just more grassroots passion.
Yeah.
Like
I feel that.
The everyday person you see in Walmart is an SEC football fan down in the South, where the Big Ten's got a little bit more of a elitist feel.
Yeah, go to Piscataway, New Jersey. It's not college football land. I mean, it's just not.
No.
Maryland, same way. Not every place is. I mean, we go to these away games. Go to Champaign, Illinois. It's not exactly a picture of excitement when Illinois plays at all. We drive right up, walk in, takes 4 minutes. I mean, it's
the easiest drive to a stadium of any. Now, like you go to Ohio State, it's a whole different deal.
Different world. And that world is Vanderbilt's not that world, but pretty much in the SEC, it's pretty across the board that way. I say that I've never been to Starkville, but I've got to assume that it's pretty lively. Cowbell. Yeah. Give me some cowbell.
Just means more.
Yeah.
Jeff Lebby, right? That's their new head coach.
Jeff Lebby is their new head coach. That's exactly right.
Yeah, Florida State, it's just because they're in a pinch right now. I mean, the revenue gap they face
is what?
At least $40-50 million.
$40
I mean, just the playoff gap alone. So an SEC Big Ten school will receive, I believe, 20.
I think it's 22 million.
22 or 23. And they're going to get 10 million more than the ACC.
It's huge.
Annually.
And we kind of talked about it earlier, but people say, what's it matter? Well, here's where it matters. I'll tell you where it matters. When a coach like Jamar Mosey is ready to move up, and Nebraska can pay him, let's just say $200,000, and then a Big 12 school tries to hire him for 70, can't do it. Well, where's he going? The Big 12 school can't pony up that kind of money.
It's like going to the furniture store and being able to buy anything you want in there on cash or finance.
Yeah.
And the Big Ten and the SEC can go into the store, buy
Cash.
anything they want in cash.
And they know it, and they flex in
And
those situations.
other leagues have to think about it, finance it. They just don't have when you have a $40 or $50 million advantage annually, that's what we're talking about here. Times that by 10 years.
Yeah, and coaches are competitive. They'll find ways to make it an advantage.
And it just, for Florida State and Clemson, it just grinds their gears. They're not getting an SEC or Big Ten check.
I understand that
because they feel like they're equal, and they are.
Basically, yeah.
And they have to sit there and take like a lesser check because of this grant of rights deal.
Yeah, and this obtuse grant of rights deal. And look at what the AC, the ACC tried to strengthen itself by adding Cal and Stanford. I mean, it's odd. They are in a pinch.
When they said that Florida State's been a bad partner, my mind started thinking about Nebraska during the COVID era. When they were kind of being a bad partner to the Big Ten at that point. I mean, they kind of towed a line there when you think about it.
I think they pushed it a little bit, didn't they?
They did. I mean, well, they got checked by Desmond Howard and
Michael Wilbon
and all these national, and Nebraska was right.
Did they get checked by anybody that mattered? That's
Kevin Warren. I think Kevin Warren wasn't happy at that time, but give Nebraska credit. They fought to get football back. Mike Flood took the Big Ten to a courtroom, and then all of a sudden we had football a week later.
What a time. What a time.
But they took a lot of heat for doing that.
Yep.
But we may not have had football for them not doing that.
I know. No, that's 100% accurate. Anyway, so we'll see what happens with Clemson and Florida State, the ACC in general. It's in the hand. I'm just kind of keep saying lawyers. I don't know what the court situation is right now, but there's a lot of lawyers involved.
What is the exit fee and the penalties? That's what we don't know.
There's law firms involved there that are making a ton of money.
Now, the Big 12 would take these guys in a heartbeat. But if you're the Big 12, do you basically want Oklahoma and Texas all over again? Because that's Clemson and Florida State.
Because they'll come in there.
High maintenance.
Yeah.
Run the meetings.
I don't know if the Big 12 would want that or not. I don't.
But the television revenues they'd bring, they'd want that.
Last week, Brett Yormark, the Big 12 commissioner, said they were not looking to add any more schools. But again, that's like Okay, maybe on that particular day, no, but that was before a potential phone call from Florida State Clemson happened.
16 schools in the Big 12, and it makes sense to me. Most of it makes sense. I love the Big 12. I mean, I say it, and I said it in the last show, I might as well say it again. When I look at those teams, Nebraska would fit. Nebraska's in the right spot because of what you guys outlined financially. But what a fit that would be. And then the beauty, you have those hot rivalries every year. Colorado, Kansas State. And God, I miss that. Good God.
Yeah, Oklahoma is the ultimate rivalry. That's long gone.
Yeah.
I mean, that was,
you know what? That was a friendly rivalry.
And that was Nebraska's Michigan-Ohio State game. That was the game.
Mhm.
And because Nebraska was so far ahead of the Big Eight at that point, Oklahoma was okay with that rivalry ending. Which, can you imagine, like, when the Big Ten split up into divisions, if they're like, yeah, Michigan and Ohio State aren't going to play anymore now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just crazy to think now that because Oklahoma had a little blurb on the radar with their success, that rivalry ended. If that rivalry was still hot, there's no way it should have ended.
Mm-mm.
But Oklahoma's chief rivals, Texas. And it always has been and always will.
But they weren't even in the same conference.
True. But there's more hatred that's a hotter rivalry.
But in Texas at that point wasn't really relevant.
Mhm.
In the 80s and the 90s, Texas really,
No, not as much.
I mean, they weren't really a big player in that era like they are now. So,
It's true.
all right. When we come back, we'll bring Abby Barmore into the show, take your questions in the mailbag. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. And we're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washut, Abby Barmore celebrating the 500th straight week of the Husker Online Show. And this segment of the show brought to you by our good friends at Omaha Steaks. Summer's in full swing, and you know what that means. The temperatures are hot, grills are hot, and the deals are even hotter than fire at Omaha Steaks. That's right. America's original butcher is heating up the summer with blazing hot deals on mouth-watering grilling favorites, guaranteed to soothe your taste buds. I butchered that line there, guys. Sorry about that.
You're fine.
For a limited time, you can get the scorching hot savings on legendary flavor during the Hotter Than Fire sale at omahasteaks.com. Every package is carefully curated by the flavor experts of Omaha Steaks to deliver an exceptional experience. And they start at just $99. Plus, we've got a bonus here for our Husker Online listeners. We're going to give you an extra $10 off with promo code HuskersOnline.com. So don't remember to put that S in there. It's HuskersOnline.com at the checkout. Promo code will give you $10 off. That's burgers, steaks, chicken, sides, desserts, you name it. And let me tell you, I had the filet mignon burgers the other day, and they were outstanding. So go to omahasteaks.com. Use that promo code HuskersOnline.com with an S on Husker, and they're going to give you $10 off at omahasteaks.com. Thanks again to Omaha Steaks for sponsoring us here on the Husker Online Show. Okay, mailbag time, Abby Barmore. What do you got?
Okay, let's go. Which corner has the best opportunity to take the second starting spot opposite Tommy Hill?
I would like to say, I mean, Bly Hill's out. So like we're gonna agree he's out.
We're going to say Bly Hill's sidelined,
Mhm.
which he is.
So the discussion is between Sierra Wright, Jeremiah Charles, or Malcolm Hartsock.
Dwight Boodle.
Or Dwight Boodle. Those are your guys. And I think based on experience, it's probably between Sierra Wright and Hartsock. And I think a lot of it's going to be, how is Sierra Wright? Is he ready to play ball?
Yeah. Go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat where I just assume is Sierra right, because for one, I don't know if Nebraska would pursue him at this point if they felt good enough about one of those other two guys as a surefire starter, and if it wasn't an upgrade, or at least someone that could immediately push for that starting job. So I think the reason he's here, and probably one of the reasons they sold him on coming here, was that he's going to have an excellent opportunity to win that starting job. So right now, I'd probably put him as the front runner, or maybe one of the two front runners. So
along with
probably just Hartsock because of his experience.
Yeah, I would say Hartsock too. I'd like to take up for Jamal Charles. I mean, he's clearly in the conversation, square in the conversation. I mean, my main frame of reference was just a brief conversation with Rule during that camp in Omaha, where they had the camp on Amon Green's where Amon Green
Norris Middle School.
And I mean, Rule mentioned Jamal Charles and Hartsock very prominently, and I kind of had to throw in Boodle. So yeah, I'd say I'm going Hartzog probably because of the experience. I think he'll just rise to the occasion. He didn't have I wouldn't say he had a tremendous year last year, and they do like him at safety, but I think he'll nudge out Sierra Wright for that job.
It'll be interesting because Hartzog, they've just moved him back and forth so much and what they end up doing. All right.
Kind of it's dangerous to get caught in between. On the other hand, they move guys around a lot in the defense period. So
next question.
Okay. Will Nebraska having grass in Memorial Stadium impact where they play the high school football championships?
It's a great question because I have a hard time imagining a week where Nebraska plays Iowa on Friday and you play 6 games on Monday and Tuesday.
How do you do it?
So that'd be 7 games in 5 days.
How do you do that?
And tell me any field in America where 7 games are played in 5 days on grass.
I don't know that happens.
At a high level.
Right. I'm not an expert.
And my idea is this. The NSA will have to flex their finals and flex their season if they can. If they want to continue to use Memorial Stadium on years that Nebraska plays at Iowa, things are fine. Like this year, no problem because the Iowa's a road game. But on the home game, they're going to have to play the state finals after Nebraska, Iowa.
Oh,
could they do that? Could they play on Saturday and Monday?
I don't know.
I don't see why not.
I mean, would they do it? And one of the reasons you may not want to do it is because the winter sports season. There's essentially really only like a 3 or 4 week, 3-week period to practice for basketball before you play a game. Well, if you're in the football finals,
Right.
you almost only get 1 week of practice before you play a basketball
And
game.
a lot of guys are doing that.
But Texas plays their finals deep into December. What do they do in Texas?
They have different weather in Texas.
But basketball players though are playing football deep into mid-December.
Yeah. Well, the grass, it's going to happen, and it's beautiful. I love it. I mean, I just love that they're going to grass. It creates that issue, but it's an issue you can deal with.
Yeah, and
It doesn't have to be a
Right. There are ways to figure it out.
Yeah.
or is it as simple as to say Seacrest will host it the years? And look, I know the venues in this state, the games have to be at one venue for Nebraska Public Media. For them to broadcast these games on television, all 6 games have to be at the same place because there's over 50 people involved in these productions and the truck and the setup. So Seacrest is probably the only place that has enough seating. I don't like Buell Field, Phelps Field at Westside. They're nice stadiums. I just can't see them being the permanent championship host with the parking needed and the other things needed. UNK, yeah, it'd be great, but I don't see Class A and B playing their finals in Kearney.
Right.
I don't think it makes sense.
Okay.
And Class A and B draw the crowds. So it's a tough decision, but the NSAA will have some time with their members to decide this.
Okay. Outside of Raiola, which freshman is most likely to get playing time this fall?
God.
Carter Nelson.
There you go. Don't overthink it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't overthink it.
Ja'Cory Barney.
Ja'Cory Barney.
Oh, don't overthink it. Good point. Yeah, those guys. Those are the two.
Today, I think you would actually say Ja'Cory Barney has higher odds than Nelson just because we've seen Barney.
And the special teams angle too. Like
He's going to return kickoffs, it looks like to me.
he's the front runner as a kickoff returner at this point.
Shavers is a guy to throw out there. Too.
Shavers.
Abby, that's why we have you here. That's a key.
Those are the guys.
Smart.
You just uncovered a key clue to the case.
Those are the guys. Those are the guys.
Now, finding who would be the 5th is probably the better question.
I don't know. I'd have to have the list in front of me. I need the list. I really do. Those guys really jump, though. It's interesting that the Barney Nelson conversation is interesting, if only because it bolsters the offense, in my opinion, significantly. They have Dylan Raiola has. I know it sounds crazy after last year, but he has quite a bit to throw to.
Does.
I always say they're not Ohio State. I'm not suggesting that. It's not like that, but it's much better
Compared to last year with what they have to work with now, it's not even the same unit.
Yeah.
If Buschini struggles at punter, would Camden Cook get a look?
Sure. Yes. The answer to that is yes.
So Camden Cook, and
Of course he
Buschini
would.
at his peak has been outstanding.
Cook has to prove it. I don't like to hand guys anything. I mean, he has to go in August and show he can do it. But if he does, yeah, of course he would be a guy. And what you hope is that Camden Cook or somebody puts pressure on Buschini. That's what you need.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be great if he can do that.
Okay, final question.
So we are celebrating our 500th Husker Online show. So what are a couple of your favorite memories from doing the show over the years?
You guys better take
Well,
the lead on this one.
Couple for me. Number one, doing a show in Ireland.
Yeah.
But our Hawaii shows
Oh, yeah.
were outstanding to the point where people I knew thought our backdrop was fake because it was so incredible. And it's really hard to create a good backdrop with a web camera because the lighting and balancing gets thrown off. I mean, we had palm trees and pools behind us.
Yeah, pool. They thought it was fake.
I mean, it was that pristine looking.
Yeah.
So that was up there for me, just doing a show out there and, battling the time zone differences. Then
It was pretty wild. I got to say, Rob, it was pretty wild.
Yeah. I don't have anything like that. What I always remember about these shows is what Sean was referring to earlier, the origin, the OG shows when we're in his basement and like little coffee table or whatever, bar table, and just how far we've come looking around the studio with our fancy backdrops and microphones and all that stuff. It's not the same show.
All I can think of is God bless Lisa.
full disclosure, the reason we have an office is
She didn't want us.
I don't think my wife was too excited about having everybody in the house.
Nor would I be. Every week? Good God. You're
It was,
lucky you're
it
still
was
married,
early in the
Sean.
morning too.
Yeah, we did
We
them.
taped at like 8 a.m.
Did you? Is 8 a.m. on
We were doing 8 a.m.
I thought so.
weekdays?
Yeah, because I do remember Matt Reynoldson, one of our, he was late a couple times on those early morning.
Yeah. His alarm forgot to go off a few times on that
8
one.
a.m. shows. That's interesting.
And we did when Carter Nelson announced we did the show live in Ainsworth.
That was memorable. Carter was live.
His coach,
That was
Jesse,
memorable.
yeah, that was a good
Yeah,
one.
Jesse was on with us.
And
Yeah, those are memorable times.
this show has led to other shows though. Husker Online Headlines, and the post game show. And the
Mhm.
post game show, guys, like we have just scratched the surface of what this is going to become.
Yep.
The viewership and the engagement that we get in this post game show now is unlike anything I could never have imagined.
Hopefully, sometimes we can broaden it to do some basketball shows.
That'd be good.
But when we're getting 2,000 live viewers on a post game show,
Yeah, and think if they actually start winning
Mm-hmm.
regularly.
Whew,
Wouldn't
there'll
that
be people feeding
Because
you.
we had some uncomfortable shows.
Yeah,
We did.
it's like, well, Nebraska scored 10 points again in a loss. Talk
Yeah,
about
it would get kind of rough. I mean, I hope people understand we're kind of harried. It's I don't know. It's just kind of tense,
The post game road shows are hard because Nebraska hasn't
That's what I
won.
mean.
They
That's
haven't,
what I mean.
they
That's
haven't won a lot of road games.
Thank you.
And
Exactly.
and then we have to set up shop in that stadium somewhere and do a show.
And people aren't all that, like, it's not like they're in a great mood watching us, nor are we in a great mood, by the way. We were thankful for what we're doing, but you got to discuss tough losses. It's not easy.
Well, being in the
Mhm.
stadium till 1 a.m. and then having a 7 a.m. flight the next day, and then getting home, and
Nobody cares.
nobody cares.
They don't care. Nobody.
No one's like, "Hey, go take a nap.
Yeah,
you worked
yeah,
all night."
yeah,
Nope.
no.
I mean, so like, it is a grind,
Yeah.
but we love it.
Yeah.
I'll say this:
Yeah,
we
we're
love
not complaining.
it. We're not complaining.
No, I look forward to it. Think about the Colorado game. How fun that's going to be.
Can't
Holy
wait.
God. I mean, I honestly can't wait. Sean's already said you got 30 minutes to write your column.
Yep.
Well, if they win that game or lose, but win that this post game show, there will be a line of Mexican restaurants that come up here with margaritas for Steve Sipple to sample on the air.
Oh, I don't want to picture it too much. Too good to think about here.
Let's not jinx anything.
Las Margaritas, El Toro. I mean, they'll all be up
Yeah,
here
bidding starts now, by the way.
Yeah.
Anyone listening?
if they're listening.
It might be.
By the way, El Toro next week.
Yeah, we're going.
Let's go.
Oh yeah, it's on us.
And look, I've got some. There's better play. No, we know, but we have history.
What are
with
you
El
saying that you're hearing from people?
Well, I had somebody tell me that that there's I know there's other
Yeah.
places, but there's some history
It's
with
not
El
the
Toro.
best place, but it's our place. That's what
Rob.
counts.
It's history. All right,
We're
when we
going
come
The
back,
smile on Sipple's face when we walk through those doors is worth it to me.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Maybe we need a live show from El Toro.
it's a little less probably.
Kick us up.
All right, when we come back, we'll close the show. Thank you, Abby, with some basketball talk. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. Final segment here, the Husker Online Show, show 500. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett, and this segment, Steve Sipple, brought to you by who?
Larson Motors. I'm glad they have joined us for our 500th show. If you're looking for a new vehicle, go for a new experience. How about a new experience in Nebraska City, where Larson Motors resides? Larson Motors is one of the Midwest's only dealerships with all of the major brands in one location. I say this every week, finding your new Chevrolet, GMC, Hummer, Ford, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, or Ram never has been easier. Start your new experience today at LarsonMotorGroup.com or at Larson Motors in Nebraska City. Larson Motors, real people,
Real deals.
All right, when basketball season,
job, Rob.
Thanks, man.
Robin picked up the slack.
I
there.
got you.
Robin hammered it, Sean.
Hey,
You're thinking about the swim meet tonight.
yeah, we got a big meet at Devaney for my
Girls do,
daughters.
your daughters
It's got
do.
the heat sheets. I
Yeah,
was
Sean
looking
got
at
the heat sheet.
sheets.
I thought there was breaking news.
Yeah.
Kind of is breaking news. Okay, Rob.
But lots going on. Fred Hoiberg, Robin spoke for about 15 minutes to reporters here on Tuesday as Nebraska kind of works their way through the summer workout schedule. The schedule also now finalized as far as the non-conference goes. And we do know the conference draw, right?
Right. You know the opponents, just don't know the dates and how that's all going to be lined up. But 20 games of conference play with the new additions to the conference joining the schedule, and then 11 non-conference games. And I know a lot of fans were not exactly thrilled with the non-conference slate, especially the home non-conference slate. Really, the only games of note are the Sioux Falls game against St. Mary's and then the game at Creighton. There's a chance. We still don't know the bracket for the Diamond Head Classic in Hawaii. So I guess technically there's 3 games to be determined of those 11. If they can find a way to get Loyola Chicago, that would at least help a little bit, because beyond that, the field, I don't think there's a single. I think if you look at the preseason projections, Loyola is far and away the second best team in that field. So we'll see where that goes. But in all, I think the idea was like last year, where you schedule a bunch of winnable games to get yourself some early momentum. You saw the benefit of that last year when they can figure things out and do so in wins.
Okay.
As opposed to years before where they'd overschedule and they'd lose those games. But the problem with that is you better win them. The margin of error with a schedule like that is so slim. And that's what Nebraska was able to do last year. They didn't play anybody, but they beat up
They won.
on the games they were supposed to beat teams up. If they can do that again, they'll be just fine. Because I wrote this in Tunnel Talk last week. But if you take the Big Ten games and then the non-conference slate, and look at the Bart Torvik 2025 projections. And that's notable because the NCAA just added Torvik's rankings to their NCAA selection data points. And so that's carries a little bit more weight now. But of his projections, 21 of Nebraska's 31 games would be against quad 1 or quad 2 opponents. So like the strength of schedule thing, I'm not worried about that. What you worry about, though, is if you have that off night.
You stumble.
Yes. And all of a sudden, Bethune-Cookman.
Well, North Dakota about pulled it off in Lincoln.
I'm
last
saying, like, it's happened many times. Like last year was kind of the exception of the rule where they didn't lose those games. It's kind of been an annual thing up until last season. So again, if you handle your business and do what you're supposed to do, I don't think the non-con will be detrimental one way or the other. But if you have a bad game, even if you win and it's close, like that could hurt you more than can help you. So
Interesting. Sean, will you be going to these games?
Oh yeah, we got our tickets,
And you'll go no matter what. You'll go see
Yeah.
Bethune-Cookman.
and I'm going to Hawaii, Rob. No, I'm just kidding.
hey,
You'll go see
Let's do it.
North Florida.
Sipple has actually already volunteered to cover Hawaii.
I don't recall doing that. I
You
don't-
would though.
maybe. I mean, I don't know. Depends
miss
how the teeth
Christmas.
thing turns out.
No, yeah. Hopefully we had a bowl game, watching Robin covering the Hawaii games from a sports bar.
yeah, you guys be wanting to go to dinner and be like, hold on, got to watch this game against Portland or Oakland who's they're playing.
Like that Hawaii tournament, as far as like opponents, is there a potential? I mean, who's the best potential team in that field?
Loyola Chicago.
And are they a top 40 team?
No, they're a quad 2 team.
So Nebraska will be the favorite in Hawaii.
Oh, by far.
That's good though.
Now, the other thing with that, what you want to avoid more than anything is playing Hawaii, because that's what happened in Nebraska last time they were in this deal back in 2015, 14. I can't remember what year it was, but they got hit with Hawaii in the opening round, and that was the game that Kai Kurkowski got the technical for dunking in pregame warmups, and the officials basically it was 8-on-5 the entire game because there's some home cooking going on. So you want to stay away from having to play Hawaii in Hawaii as much as possible. If you avoid that, they should be okay.
All right. Now, what did Fred say today?
Yeah. So as far as the actual team is concerned, the two things that really jumped out to me, I mean, obviously a lot of it was just kind of your typical positive off-season updates, but because of how different Nebraska's personnel is going to be in two areas, in their front court and at point guard, I'm very curious to see what that picture looks like systematically for Nebraska and how they adjust to their personnel. Fred made a point to say that he's adjusted his offense and his system every year that he's been here around their personnel. But this is going to be about as dramatic of a shift when you talk about not having that true shot-making, facilitating big like Rink Master, even Derek Walker, with how good of a passer he was. Their center has led their team in assists the last two seasons. I don't know if that's going to be the case again this year. Andrew Morgan, everyone that has watched him says that he does a lot of the things Rink Master can do besides shooting. But they also have Braxton Mia, who is a completely different player than anything probably Fred's had maybe in his coaching career. At 7'1", and he can run. He's offensively limited. I mean, his shots will be at the rim,
dunks
99.9% of the time. But with that, you can do some different things. And so I'm very curious how this staff kind of figures out these new pieces, like what they can do with Morgan that translate to what they did with Rink. But then what can you do with lineups around Braxton Mia and how they're going to play not just differently offensively, but defensively too. Like right now, they've had to compensate for not having a true rim protecting big by doubling in the post every time. When Braxton Mee is in there, do you have to do that as much?
Nope,
and you can try. Can you pressure the perimeter some more with that? Yeah, he is healthy. He just joined live half court work this week. And so he's well on his way to being
athletic,
full go. He had a thumb injury is what we're talking about.
Sean, he's an athletic 7-footer. You know what you're going to see a lot of? Lob dunks.
Yes. Fred said he has a chance to be a force when he's healthy.
Lob dunks, pick and roll lob dunks.
And then the other part of it is point guard. For the first time since Fred Hoiberg's been here, he has a true point guard, not just one, but two veteran true point guards in Aaron Eulis and Raleigh Wooster. And just listening him to talk about Raleigh Wooster in particular, I think right now, if I had to pick a starter at that point guard spot, I'm going with Raleigh.
Ooh, good. I mean, it's not. I just like the fact they got two that will battle.
But you didn't have one last year at all.
Eulis is going to play,
and they'll battle.
That was their biggest thing. That's why Bryce Williams had to take over.
He did, and he did good.
Yeah, he did well, but it was what it was.
All right. Well, that wraps up show 500.
How about that?
Thank you for joining us here, and hopefully we're back for 500 more shows here on the Husker Online channel. If you're not a member of Husker Online, we got a great deal, great promo. Check us out. We're going to give you 2 months for $1. Simply use the promo code NU1. That's promo code NU1, 2 months for $1. For Abby Barmore, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett, I'm Sean Callahan.